Hello, everybody. I'll just wait for everyone to get in. We had to set a limit on this one of how many people could access it, and it's actually 100, and it looks like that's been filled already. I think we did we had over 500 people register for this. So what we'll do for those that can't get in, if there's anyone asking you how they get in and they can't, we're going to be posting a video of this, a recording of this, to our website shortly after we finish here. So we'll put it on a YouTube channel, post a link, and we'll email everybody that registers, so everybody will still get access to it, because I didn't quite expect so many people to be trying to get into the webinar or to this one. So hope you're all doing okay. I'm going to try, I've got a bit of a different setup here. I've had to come into our dusty office because I've got internet issues elsewhere, and hopefully this all goes according to plan, because all the equipment isn't quite what we're used to. But let's go and see how we get on. Somewhere on your screen there should be a little Q&A button, Q&A app. If you want to ask any questions at any time, then you can use that, and I will make sure I get to your questions, or I will try to. We have had some sent in ahead of time, so thanks to the people that did that. We had a bit more than I was anticipating, so hopefully we'll get to answer them all, but if we don't, I'll be in touch with everybody by email. My name's David, by the way, hopefully you know all that. There is, anyone's got any issues with things like audio or video, please let me know as soon as you can, just so I can maybe get that fixed if it's not working properly. But I'm going to share my screen with you now, and let's get that going. So here we go. Good. Hopefully you can see my screen. And once again, we're going to be using our demonstration nursery account here to show you how things work. For those of you in primary schools who've not seen the system before, the difference between the nursery and the primary is very small. The processes are all exactly the same for how you create observations. Now, I was hoping to use this session to sort of let you know about all the new features that have been added over the last few weeks and talk through those, but I know there are quite a few of you who have never used the system before, so I'm going to do a quick 5-minute refresh of how you create an observation in a story and what all those sort of things sort of mean. So if I go into, these are, just to explain, this is our demonstration account. We've got a baby room, toddler room, preschool room. These, you can think of these as your classes, or however you want to organize your school or your nursery. This is where you would do this. And if we click into a room, we'll be able to see all the children in here. So here's all my 3 to 5 children, and we can open up any particular child's profile, and here it comes. So here's Alistair here. So let's just talk through what we're seeing here. We've got his basic information on the left with some other functions. And then on the right hand side, we've got all of his observations and stories and parent contributions that have been added. So this is one of the big changes, I think, since the last webinar is we've now collected parent contributions along with observations and stories. So let me just quickly talk through how that's working at the moment. You can see we've got 3 big buttons at the top here, and down below I can see this first observation here is in green and it's labeled an observation. If we scroll a bit further down, we can see this purple one and it's a parent contribution, and then even further down from that there's a blue one which is a story. So those are the 3 categories of content that you can add to a child's profile. And each observation that we've got here has got the date that it was created. It's got the content, so that's the bit that's added by the teachers, nursery staff, and it's got evidence in the form of photos or videos, which are over here. So we've just got 1 photo for this particular observation. Tells you who created it or who observed this one. And then we've got a parent section down below, so parents can log into their own child's profile using the parent app or the website as we're doing here, and they can click on the like button just to acknowledge that they've seen it, just like John's done, or they can write a comment and leave that here. So the parent engagement side is a big focus for us over the last few months, and hopefully you've seen a lot of changes and new features being added to that. We had an early question come in from Leanne, who's just asking, how can I convert a child's report to a PDF file? Well, that's an easy one for me to kick things off. Thanks, Leanne, because if you look over on the left-hand side, we've got this button that says convert profile to PDF. So you would just use that, click on this button here, and it will give you a few different options about what you want to do. So you can either do the whole thing, or you can choose different dates, whatever you want to do. You can choose for different only observations, only stories, if you want to include parent contributions. And when you request a PDF, it will appear in your downloads tab up the top here. So any files that you've requested for download appear up there. So we'll just go back to Alistair's observations. So let's go through the two options that you've got when you're on this profile. We can either, as you can see, we can either add a story with this button here, or we can create an observation. So the difference between the two of them is a story is a record of an experience, and an observation is a record of learning. I'll do a story first, just because that's a quicker one. You can see how that works. So if I click into add story here, we've tried to keep this process as simple as possible. I always say this, just because I know not everyone is as comfortable with technology. So there's nothing here you can do that will delete your entire account or wipe out all the parents. So don't worry about that. Anything you can do can usually be undone as well. So we just follow the steps. What were they doing? So let's just do that. Say that Alistair was outside in the mud kitchen. You can have anything you want in here. So maybe as a nursery or a school, you'll have a discussion about what sort of thing do we want. What's a good observation? What's a good story? What sort of things do we want to do? Because this is just a tool for you, and it's how you use the tool is very important, and your input and the quality of the observations is super important as well. I just did get a wee notification there that someone has raised a hand. If you, if instead of raising a hand, if you click on the Q&A button, you should be able to answer a question in there, because I'll actually see that more easily. Okay, so we've got her what they were doing. What did they learn? So we used to only have one box. Many of you will know about the description. We split this out a few months ago so that you could maybe better focus on the learning that was taking place. So if you want to, you can split your description up here and your learning in the box below, or you can put it all in one box. It's up to you. You'll see that this says that it's optional. There's a section for a child's voice. So in our nursery, what we try and do is include the children in the creation of observations and stories as much as possible. So at this point, we can ask them how they felt about what they've done. They can even click on these buttons themselves. And if they say anything, we can note it down in this box here. So really quite straightforward to use. The date's automatic. That's just today's date. But if it's something you wanted to backdate, you can use the calendar there for that. We've got, then you come to uploading a photo or a video. So when I'm on the laptop here, I can click on these boxes and I can upload a few photos. So let's just pick this one of this polar bear, and then another one of crocodile, for example. You can have up to 4 photos or videos. Bear in mind, you see how quick that uploaded there, but bear in mind if you are trying to load a video and it's a very long video, that video will have a large file size, and the larger the file size, the longer it will take you to upload. So we occasionally get people asking us or thinking there may be an issue with the video uploader, but the longer the file, the longer it will take to upload, and that will also depend a whole lot on your internet connection at home. So if you're trying to upload a 500 megabit file in a really high quality video, which is maybe 5 or 6 minutes long, you might encounter some problems. So try and keep the file sizes small if you can reduce the resolution of them, or maybe compress them beforehand. But yeah, you can upload up to 4 pieces of evidence for your observations. You can also attach files. So you'll see in this section down here, we've got the opportunity to attach, what have we got? PDFs, Word documents, Excel files, PowerPoints, even audio files as well. So you can upload those and attach these, and they'll be attached to the observation or the story. Then you choose whether you want to publish it or save it for later. If it's published, it's visible to parents. So if a parent happens to log in, they would see anything that's published. So don't publish something that you don't want to be visible. If you have published it, you can always unpublish it, you can edit it, you can make changes, so don't worry if you've done that. The really handy feature that we have hidden away down in the bottom right hand is this one here, publish this observation for other children. So quite often you'll be doing group activities where everybody will be doing the same thing, and you don't want to have to go through this process for every single child. So when you check the box that says publish this observation for other children, you're then brought to a page where you can choose all, just using this button here, we can say everybody was involved in this particular story. We can remove any children that we think actually didn't mean to be involved here. And then when we click on begin, that copies it over to their page. Everything will be copied over. So there, photographs, L descriptions will be copied over. I've just made a mistake, I've realized, because I forgot to do change the names. So let's just quickly show you how we would do that. I'll edit the story. So if I had realized I made a mistake, I can just come back to this one and I can edit this and publish it for other children. Because in our description, we had said there that Alistair was taking part or was outside in the mud kitchen. Now, what we don't want is Alistair's name to appear in the profiles of the children that we're copying it to, so Charlie and Davina in this case. So what we do, if that's happened, is we can use these instructions in this blue panel up the top. These are always going to be here. And what we can do is change this to say, if we replace the child's name in the box below with the code first name, just like that. What this will do is when we copy it over, it would then change Charlie and Davina to say Charlie was outside in the mud kitchen and Davina was outside in the mud kitchen. So it's a really handy way to personalize individual observations for children. So it's really, really useful. Will save you heaps and heaps of time. It doesn't do gender, so he, she, we won't have that. So you need to make sure you're considering that when you're creating your observations. But here's the, if we go back to Alistair's profile now, it'll just load in. And there's the observation we just completed with our crocodile and our polar bear. We can see the two observations there. So that's a story. You can do these very, very quickly. They take no time at all. And you can publish it to lots of children at the same time as well. So a huge time saver. What I've noticed over the last few months is that schools and nurseries too will be using the story feature to do things like keep parents updated, maybe set work or homework or tasks or what they want to do, keep using it as a way to keep in touch. So some teachers have been really creative with this. They send videos on a Monday and say, hi class, this is what we're going to be talking about this week, encouraging them to use the parent contribution feature. So stories are really powerful and a way that you can communicate with parents really quickly. I realize a lot of you are sending questions in here and there's a lot of them coming in, and I will come back to these towards the end. I don't want to derail myself too much. Okay, so that was a story. Let's quickly touch on observation because the process is very similar. But whereas a story was an experience, an observation is a record of learning and progress and development. So the first part is very, very similar. So what were they doing? Let's just say that Alistair was taking part in a number activity. And you can see I've got a wee spelling mistake there. We do have spell check, which is really quite handy. And then we've got our optional learning, our child's voice. Those are the same as before. We have one extra box in an observation called a next step. So a next step is a goal or a target based on what you've seen in their description. So we're saying here that Alistair was taking part in a number activity. And let's imagine he was trying to count to 10 and he was missing out his numbers or getting them around the wrong way. A goal here could be to consistently learn how to count to 10. That could be a next step that he's working towards. Each child's got a next step tracker, so you can always look at the next steps. But what's important to maybe point out is that the mistake we made in our own nursery when we first started using next steps was we added in a next step every single time we took an observation. And what we quickly found was that each child had 20, 30, 40 next steps that we were tracking, and it was just becoming unmanageable and we couldn't really keep on top of it. So the way we work it now, and you can maybe find your own method that works, is we create 2 or 3 next steps at the beginning of a term for each child and work towards those throughout that term. And that keeps it manageable. We've got not too many and we can keep on top of everything and we can see which next steps are being achieved and which ones aren't. So that works really well for us, but you can maybe find your own method. I'll not bother uploading a photo this time, but this works the same way. You've got attaching files as well. That works the same way too. This is where it becomes different. So when we click on the next here, instead of being able to publish it straight away, we need to link it to a framework. So Alistair, for those of you who are not based in Scotland, he's on what we call the Curriculum for Excellence EAR level. That's a framework that we have here. You may have different frameworks depending on which part of the country or the world that you're in. If the framework that you want isn't here, we can actually create that for you. But the structure is very similar, or always the same. So as you can see, we're on the EAR level curriculum. That's split into these different areas down below. We're currently in one called health and well-being. And down below health and well-being, we have lots of what we call experiences and outcomes, or they're just learning statements. And what the system is asking us to do is to attach whichever statement applies to the activity or the observation we're just creating. And we do that with these green buttons here. And you can have as many of those on here as you want. So I'll do a couple of health and well-being ones. And you'll see there's some numbers down in this column here, a lot of ones. This is telling us that Alistair, our child here, has had one observation linked to this statement already. These ones have got 0, means we've got no evidence or no experience of that. And what that's useful for is, as you work with the child, you get to see where there are gaps in particular parts of the curriculum, areas that they've not experienced yet. You can go across different areas, so we can go into numeracy and maths, for example, and we can add in outcomes from different areas, so there's no limit to that. You can also go across different frameworks. So if you're working in a primary school and you have children who are going between, for example, the R level and the first level, then you would be able to add in outcomes from each one. And you do that just with this down here. I've only got a few frameworks added in here, but yeah, you could add in from different frameworks as well. Now, the outcomes that we've selected have appeared at the top of the page. You can see I've got 2 health and well-being and a numeracy and maths. And before we move on, we're asked to apply a traffic light rating or assessment for these outcomes. And you do that with these little buttons here. The default terminology is red, amber, green. You can actually change this if you want to in your settings, but it's important to note that parents don't see the red, amber, green elements of observations. So those are only for your internal tracking and monitoring. So it's only staff that could see those, parents don't see them. The reason for that is because there's no standardized definition of what does red, amber, green mean. And parents may interpret that differently to what you intended it to be. And in fact, schools and nurses can interpret that differently as well. So as a team, maybe you'll have a discussion about what does red mean, what does green mean, for example. Okay. The next stage is very similar to the experience and outcomes from the one before, but instead of experience and outcomes, we've got what are called progression pathways. This can actually vary depending on your framework as well. So for example, children working on the first level in Scotland, they don't have an additional section here. This is just completely blank and you can move on. This R level, on the R level one, sorry, is just really an extra layer of assessment or an extra layer of tracking. And you use it the same way, so we can add in outcomes with these red, amber, greens at the top. If for anyone maybe in England, this would be titled The Characteristics of Effective Learning, but it works the same way as the step you saw before. You just add in your outcome and you do a red, amber, green for this as well. We have got, on our last stage, this is where we have the opportunity to connect to previous observations. So if you remember that back in the first step, I said in our nursery we added in lots of or a next step for every single observation that we took, and this quickly became unmanageable. So this is where this can be illustrated. So at the moment we can see on the right hand side the active next steps for Alistair, for this child, and you can see we've only got one here. So if we had 40 or 50 next steps, it would be very difficult for us to look through this list and be able to find out what we're supposed to be doing. So with only one next step, it's really easy for us, and the system is asking us, does today's observation, Alistair was taking part in a number activity, does that achieve or contribute towards any of his outstanding next steps? He's only got one outstanding next step, which is to keep practicing counting to 10 without any mistakes. And you can link up today's observation with this one from August last year. You can, with that green button, and then you can check this box to say that that next step's now been completed and achieved, which means we won't see it in the future because we've done that now. We're happy that he's secure in that. Or we can uncheck the box because it might take several attempts for Alistair to satisfy that next step, and you might want to link this a few times. So I'll not link this one at all though. Then you can choose whether you want to publish the observation or save it for later. So if it's published, like before, it's visible to parents. You can save it for later if you want to go back and make any changes. And again, you can publish the observation for other children if you want to. I'll not do that in this case though. We'll just publish this observation and take us straight back to his profile. So there we go. there's our observation there. We can, I should have mentioned before, but if you want to, you can personalize further straight away by adding in, but we forgot the number 6 or whatever. So you can personalize that a bit more there. But that's visible to the parents now because it says it's published. Parents can come in, they can also click on this Outcomes and Pathways tab. And what they see here are all the outcomes that have been added. As a member of staff, you'll see the red, amber, green indicators that we've shown, but parents don't see that. So this is only for your internal tracking and monitoring. Another thing I'd quite like to point out on the homepage, on the child's profile that you might not have noticed, is that we've got a little panel over on the left that tells you when the parents last logged in. And we can see that John was last logged in this morning. Catherine's not logged in for quite a while. And if we scroll down, we can see these two panels here that tell us when the parents last logged in. So there's Catherine last logged in on April 29th and John on the 17th of June this morning. These little buttons, or well, they're not buttons, but these little labels, they appear at the point where the parents have seen up to. So because it's above this observation with the apples, we can tell that they've actually seen this observation. It's below the one with the crocodile, so they've not actually seen that one yet. So as soon as they log in and look at these observations, their little labels will appear up the top of the page here. So that's quite a useful one if you want to see when a parent has last logged in or what they've seen up to. So it's really quite useful. But that's the core of the system, taking observations and taking stories or creating stories. That's what practitioners and teachers will use the system for 95% of the time. And hopefully you've seen that that's kind of a easy process to get through. And once you've created a couple of observations or a couple of stories, you'll see it's really simple and there's really not much to it there. Okay, we'll move on to a couple of other screens and maybe we can talk about some of our newer features as well now. We've got on our home tab here, for those of you who haven't seen this before, let me just quickly point a couple of things out. This is the home screen. This is what everybody sees when they first log in. It's a summary of all your recent observations. So there's the observation we just took for Alistair. There's the ones we just took for the other children there. Now these are all published at the moment, but if I want to, I can say, well, I want to change this one for Charlie and I want to change it to saved so that it's not actually visible. And we can do that by changing these all to saved here. We can even delete them if we want to, and we can do that in bulk by checking the box down here like this and say I want to change the status to deleted, and that removes those. You can use all these filters up here to focus on different information, whatever you would like to do. Next to this observation tab is one called notifications, and this is a list of children, and a child appeared in this list if they haven't had an observation in a certain period of time. It's not necessarily a bad thing that they appear in this list, it's just really to highlight this to you. Now, I guess you could say that if it gets to 289 days, then it is kind of a bad thing. But there might be a reason. We've got here, Robin is visiting relatives in New Zealand. So this is really just for your information to make sure that no children have slipped through or been forgotten about. So that's quite a simple one. You actually get an email about this every weekend as well. The parent interactions tab is a really important one. Now we've only, this is just a demonstration account, so we don't have real parents involved, but this is where you would get notes of parents who have logged in and clicked on that like button, they've left a comment, or left any report comments as well. It's really useful. We, in our nursery, this is the same, I'm sure this is the same for all of you, but we would really struggle to get parents to interact with the profiles before. So to get them to come into the nursery and look through them and leave comments was very, very difficult. But because they can log in using the app anytime they want, where at home, at work, on the bus, wherever they are, they can leave comments, and they do, and we receive hundreds every month. And schools that I've been working with over the last couple of years, I've seen thousands every month from parents, so likes and comments and parent contributions. I mean, I guess that brings us on to the parent contributions one here. So every time a parent adds a parent contribution, it appears here. You can tell when it's been viewed by a member staff or not, and you can go and view that. And if you want to, you can leave comments as well. I guess we could, should maybe point out that it's a good idea for you to set expectations to parents about what this means, because the system wasn't designed really to be conversational. So parents shouldn't expect to leave a comment and then you to respond to that, because it places an extra burden on staff and teachers and nursery practitioners. So maybe set parents' expectations that they can leave comments and that's encouraged, but they maybe shouldn't expect responses. And it wouldn't be the sort of thing that a parent would log in and leave a comment for Alistair to say, he wasn't feeling very well this morning, please keep an eye on him, that sort of thing. It's really just about how their opinion on the learning that's taking place and the observation that you've created. Okay, I'm going to leave next steps and reports and child activity for just now. And we're going to go to we're going to log in as a parent so that you can see how that works. So I log out as a staff member here, just so you can see what a parent sees. Excuse me, I can't speak and type. So this is the parent of Alistair that we were just using. So you can see that up the top here that it's a wee bit different. So instead of all the different tabs that we had, they've got a tab for each child that they have in the nursery. So John here has got 3 children, Burton, David and Alistair. And we're in Alistair's tab here, and you can see there's the observations that I just created just a minute ago. They can click on the outcomes tab, as I said, but you'll notice the red, amber, green indicators aren't there. They can scroll down, they can see all the observations that have taken place, and they can leave comments. So they can come up here and they can click on this like button, and then we'll see that in our home screen as a staff member. These buttons, and this works the same for staff as well, these buttons work as filters. So let's imagine, for example, John only wants to see observations, and he doesn't want to see stories or parent contributions. So he just unchecks those boxes. There's all our observations here. We can even go further than that and say that I actually only want to see my early level observations, and I only want to see my numeracy and maths observations. And you can do that just by using these filters here. So it's a really useful and quick way to focus in on particular parts of the system. But let's bring everything back in. Now, the only way that a parent can add content is through this parent contribution button. So where staff members add stories and observations, parents add parent contributions. So they click on parent contributions, and you'll see it's very similar to the staff, to a story, but it's even a lot more stripped down. So all they can do is they choose which category. You can have multiple categories. So let's say it's news from home, and we did some art today. You'll see what an imagination I have to be able to come up with things like that. So yeah, they can have as much as they want in there. They can change the date if they want to, and they can upload a photo too. I'll preempt any questions that come in about this, or maybe they've already come in, but at the moment, parents aren't able to upload videos. They can upload photos, but not videos. And it kind of links back a bit to what I was saying earlier on, because the storage element of things is one of, well, it's a really important part for us, obviously, but in our testing, what we found was parents weren't so easily able to keep to the intention of the system. And they maybe would upload lots of videos not related to learning, and it turned out that the system ended up being a little bit like a little mini YouTube, which put a lot of strain on our systems. So to remedy that at the moment, what we've done is we only allow parents to upload photos. So hope that's understandable. We might look at that again in the future if we can work out a way to sort of restrict things a little bit. They can attach files though, so again, Word documents, PowerPoints, etc. And then they click on finish, and that's their parent contribution complete. So they can also convert the profile to a PDF, just like we showed Leanne earlier at the beginning. They can look at any reports you've created, and they can look at a gallery of all the images. So when a child leaves, they can the parent can export everything. You don't have to do this for them. They can all do that themselves. They can download it. They can save it. If they want to print it, they can print it. But that is something that they can keep when they leave the nursery. And if they leave your nursery or your school and go to another school or nursery that uses the system, then we can transfer their profiles. It's really simple to do. It's something that you can actually do yourselves. What I'll do here, I'll log out and log back in as our nursery manager, just so we can see that. Make sure I get the right pin. Incidentally, if anyone ever forgets their login details, you can use this forgot login button here. It's maybe easy to miss because it's a little bit grey. But that's one of the number one things that parents struggle with, is they've forgotten their login details. You can actually reset their details for them on the parent tab as well. Okay, so let's just quickly see that. You can also, for those of you who've been using the system and don't know, there's a search bar up here, which quickly will take you to a child's page. So there's the parent contribution that we made here. So that's available. And now as a nursery manager, I can either click like myself, or I can put a comment in too. So that's the main child's profile. The next thing I want to have a look for is to talk about some of the new features that we've got. And one of the big ones is around messages. So for those of you who don't know, we have an instant messaging system here. The stories and the observations that we've created, parents will get notified about those, but they get an email and it comes late at night or later on in the evening. If you want to send a message immediately to parents, you can use your messages system over here. And what it's really useful for are for things like, well, let's just go through it. We've got all our details in here, and I've got all my drafts and ones I've already sent. But let's say I want to send a new message, and I'm going to send a message about returning to school, for example. And all the details that are coming out about that at the moment. What we can do is a new feature that's just been added, and you may not have seen this if you've just logged in the last few weeks or last few days, but you can now choose who the message comes from your team of staff. So we can save which member of staff we want it to come from, or just our default address if we want to. So for example, if you're a primary 7 teacher and you want to send this to your primary 7 parents, you can now do that instead of having to get the office to do it, or having all replies going back to the office. So then you put your content in here. So you could either write it all in this box, or you can use these attachment features down here to attach Word documents or PDFs or whatever it is you want to send. You can do it through that there. Because these are going out as emails, there's a limit to the size of each one, because most email clients like Gmail or Hotmail will have a limit to the size of an email that can be sent. So bear that in mind too. You can choose whether a parent sees a reply button or not when they add it in. And then you come to choose your recipients. So we can choose whether we want to send it to all parents, or maybe I only want to send it to the parents of my 3 to 5s room, or I can click on this list button, see all the parents here, and I actually only want to send it to the parents of Alistair Harling. So there you go. So that's how you could focus in. And when we send this message out, it will go immediately. The parent will get an email, but they'll also get a little notification on their phone if they use the parent app. And we use it for things like the car parks, IC today, or St. Schools say things like the lollipop lady won't be in this week. So it's a really useful feature. You can also now send to staff. So if you're a manager or a senior person, you can send it to either your key workers or whatever. So there's new features in there as well. We've also made a little change for those of you who use the system. When you added files like PowerPoints, we now keep your file names. Before we appended or prepended numbers to them at the beginning, but that doesn't happen anymore. So if you call the file biology homework, that's what it'll come out as when they receive it. You can also now from your sent messages, although I don't have any here, but if there's any with attachments, they'll have a paperclip icon here, which you can then view on, just to make sure or to ensure that you know what's been sent. Okay, let's have a look. Maybe I should go through these questions now. Sorry, the last thing I want to focus on for people who are not so familiar with the system is the tracking and monitoring side of it. That's a huge bit. So the way that we access those is we go to our children tab and we click on this cohort tracking button up the top here. So every time you're taking an observation and you're adding in your experiences and outcomes, etc., you are building up a picture in the background of coverage and ability for all these children. And what we can use with this report, I'll just choose my R level, and well, I'll choose all rooms here. Bear in mind, this is a demonstration account. They're not real children, not real data. So what we've got here is, hopefully I hope you can see this, but hopefully it's quite straightforward. But along the top, we've got our curricular areas. So we've got health and wellbeing, numeracy and maths. Down the left, we've got all of our children. And then vertically here, we've got what we call our organizer, but they're kind of subcategories. of each area. So in health and well-being, it's split into things like activity and health, activity and sport. Then numeracy and maths, you've got your 2D, 3D, angle and symmetry, etc. And this is automatically completed and filled in every time you're taking observations and adding in outcomes and adding in your traffic lights. What it's useful for is for things like, if we look at our child Liz over here, we can see that for numeracy and English, we have got no observations at all for Liz. Now, it might be that she's a new child or she's just joined the class, but it could be that she's been missed completely. And these are obviously very important areas that we want to make sure that children are experiencing in, and we've got evidence of that. We don't have that for Liz, so this points this out to us. So it's really useful for that. It's also quite handy for whole classes for coverage. So if we look down, for example, writing and organizing down here, we look down this column, we can see that very few children have had observations or experience in this area. And this might be okay, that might be part of the plan, but what we would maybe, or what we could do, if we wanted to increase coverage of that, is we could actually click on the vertical column there. It tells us which outcomes belong to that group, and what we could then do is create an activity or a project or something around this, this outcome, and create an observation around that for all the children or all the class, and then we've got evidence of coverage and experience in that part of the framework. So it's really useful in that respect as well. This is as of right now, so this is bang up to date. So every time we take an observation, it goes in here, and you can create a PDF for this. You can save it and export it. What you might want to do is compare your children today with how they were in the past. So what we can do with that is we can change our date and say, well, actually, I don't want to look at the 17th of June 2020. Well, let's just go back, and let's go back to 2018 and run this report. And what we do is because we can compare it with our PDF that we had previously and back in 2018, we can then see that this is a much more empty. And looking at the two of them, we're now demonstrating coverage, an increase in coverage and development and progress for all these children. So it's a really visual and useful tool to be able to do and see all that. So that's tracking and monitoring. You can do it for individual children as well. Each child's got their own individual tracker. I'll not go into that just now. We're already going to be running late, I think. So let's maybe go to some questions here and see how we get on. So, oh God, there are a lot of questions here, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to get through these, and I haven't seen these ahead of time. So let's just see how we get on. Is there a function to upload documents? Rachel asks, scanned Word or PDF documents in order to use a school's current method of recording for groups or a whole class. Rachel, I'm not sure if I'm going to interpret that question correctly, but yes, you can. You can upload documents as part of stories and observations, as you've seen, but there's also a reports function as well. I don't really have time to go into that on this webinar, but I'll do another one on reports. And you could use those to do things like end of term reports or transition reports. So maybe get in touch with me and I'll point you to some videos that we've done on that one in the past. Let's just have a look for some other ones here. Can uploads only be done from a desktop or browser? So Karen's asking this question. So you might be alluding, Karen, to the fact that up until now, we've actually had available a staff app. Because of all the developments and new features we've added, we've actually removed that staff app from the App Store. And the reason is because they were kind of two different systems, and to keep them both updated was very, very difficult. And we just wanted to concentrate on the one that was being used the most, and that was by far and away the browser version that we're seeing here. So we don't actually support the staff app anymore, and it's not available on the app stores. So there's so many more features on the web version than there were on the staff app, and there were issues with the staff app as well. So if that's what you're kind of looking for there, Karen, then there's the answer to that. But you can still access the web version on an iPad or even a phone if you want to, although it might be a little bit smaller. But yeah, you can still access that there. And then we had a question from Anonymous there asking about parent videos. So hopefully I've covered that one. So parents can only upload photos. They cannot upload videos. can you change a previous observation to a story? Asks Laura. Now, Laura, I don't think that's possible. That's a good question though, because I've not thought about that for a while. So let's just see if we can do that. But I don't think you can. No, in fact, Laura, you can't. So an observation, once it's created as an observation, it can't be. We can edit and unpublish and change it, but you can't actually change it to a story. So I'm afraid not. Amy's asking, can any member of staff change red, amber, green system on settings? You need to be a manager level, Amy, to get into that. I'll just show you where that is. So you go into your configuration tab up the top. Sorry, let me just go back here. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Laura. We have actually, we have just added that in, that we can actually convert this to a story. So if you see, I've edited my observation and we've got this button here, convert to story. So I do apologize. I can't keep up with all new features myself sometimes. So yeah, you come in here, convert that to story. So yes, that is possible. Now back to Amy's question about changing the settings. It's in your tracking keywords and colors down the bottom here. So you would just come in here. You need to be a manager level account to be able to do this, but you can just change it to wherever you want. So if that's developing something secured or whatever, you can do that there. And these codes are what they call hex codes. If you Google hex codes, you'll be able to find out which one. You can pick any numbers you want. So if I put in, you can see how that color's changing for us there. I think white's that one, yeah. And then we've got black. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, you can have any colors you want there. Oh, Anne's asking, will you be able to look at adding 4 or fewer photos at the same time without having to go back into photos to choose? Hope that makes sense. So Anne, I'm hopeful that this relates to our new uploader. So actually, this is actually available at the moment on observations. Let's just choose Alistair again. So if you remember when I created that story, I had to pick 4 separate images, but we've got a new uploader that we're just trying to integrate across the site, which means you can actually access or pick 4 photos at once. So let's just wait for this to come in. I'll take the opportunity of a drink of water. Okay. Poor old laptop is struggling here. Come on, we can make it. We're nearly there. There we go. So when we create an observation, when we get to the uploader here, you'll see it looks slightly different. Before you would have 4 boxes with the opportunity to upload, but now we can choose our files. And I'm in my animals section or whatever it is you want to, or wherever you, so this, if you're on an iPad, this would open up your photos gallery or whatever. And let's say I want to pick this one and, oh, sorry, that one, those 4 photos there. We can do them all at once now. And we can upload them. I could, it's uploaded too quickly there, but you can edit these and you can rotate them or you can change them or so. Okay, and we'll just save that one and exit there. Lawrence is asking, why would you want to delete an observation from that list specifically? Well, even though we've said it's deleted there, Lawrence, it's not actually deleted. So what we can do is we can use these filters up here. See, it says published or saved, and I can look for any deleted observations. So it's been removed from the child's profile, so they can't see it. You just wouldn't want to see it in the list. So if it's saved, if let's say, for example, we change this to saved instead of published and instead of deleted, what we then see is when we look on Charlie's profile, that will still be there and is saved for later. So it's just to remove that from the child's profile, so it's not there at all if you didn't want it to be there. So maybe you'd added in Charlie by accident or whatever. You see, I did that, and here's an example because I'd actually got the wrong name in this one, so I didn't want this to be there at all. So when the questions are just rolling in here, so we may not get to everybody, but let's keep going. When the practitioner leaves a comment and saves it, is there any way of going back to edit it? Kirsty, yeah, you can. So let's imagine that we've done this one here. I created this one, so I can come in here and I can actually change anything I want to. So what did I say? So yeah, we want that to be Charlie. Or I could edit the observation and then you can go into, I could go into more details here. for example. So hopefully that makes sense there. Catherine's asking, keen on being as paperless as possible. Do we link with any other systems? Currently, no, really, Catherine. What we are going to be doing, I don't know if you've been on our website in the last little while, but oh goodness me, right, oh God. But we have a couple of other products coming. Now, they've been coming for a while because we had to push things back when we focused a bit more strongly on learning journals and parent contributions. But the first one that's going to be coming is our HR system. So for staff folders, so for holidays, sickness, even grievances, your one-to-ones, that sort of thing. So that's almost ready. It's going to be coming very soon. We also have a finance system. So for private nurseries who invoice parents, you'll be able to send out invoices and things as well. So we want to try and get to the stage where we do everything really, because every system is built completely differently and it's very difficult to integrate, especially when we're a very small company. So nobody really wants to accommodate anything that we want. So we have to do it ourselves. So let's just, sorry, I'm scrolling through our questions. So when a child's achieved an observation, you don't need to put the observation again with pictures of proof. Jackie's asked, so when a child has achieved an observation, you don't need to put the observation again with pictures of proof. I would say no. I'd say once you've got that next step achieved, if that's what you're talking about, then you can demonstrate you've got that there. You've got all the evidence on the child's profile. We did have a couple of questions emailed in, so I should really actually make sure we answer those ones. So Eileen did ask, when we take a photo of the children on iPads and the photo is taken portrait, we can't upload it properly as it loads landscape and can cut some of the evidence in the picture. Eileen, with that new uploader that I showed you, there's a way you should be able to edit the pictures and rotate them if you have to, but portrait images should actually work now. So if that's not the case, do let me know, because that should be the case. Siobhan from Glasgow. Currently developing planning in the moment approach and wonders if there could be a format for recording this on the journals. I would maybe point you towards our reports videos that we've done, Siobhan, but get in touch with me separately because it depends on exactly what you need it to do. Leona asks, when will they be able to convert or link home achievements to the curriculum? So what she is referring to there is we are very soon going, I don't have a date for you, Leon, I'm afraid, but very soon what you'll be able to do is when a parent adds in something from home, you will be able to link this to a framework. We can't do that at the moment, and there's a few extra steps we need to take to be able to do that, but we will get there. Very soon is really the answer to that. I unfortunately don't have a better date than that. When viewing home achievements for one child, I'm not able to go back to home achievements tab to view the next child's. Now, we've got a fix for that coming very soon, but I'll illustrate to everybody else what you mean. So if we're on our home tab here and we look at parent contributions, if I click on, you see how I can see everyone's here. I click on Alistair's, who's top of the list. And then when I click back on my browser, I'm straight to the observations tab again. This is not highlight this one. This is really it's a feature of browsers, unfortunately. So when I click the back button, it's just reloading this page. So there's a couple of ways around that we can get around this. And the way we've chosen is that from our next update, which I think is this weekend, you will, when you click on this, it will open a new tab. So it'll be the equivalent of me doing that, and it will open up that in a different tab there. So we can just go back to the one that was already open and we can click on view for each one. So it should save you quite a bit of time for that. Can you only see your messages, or can you see all the messages that have been sent by staff? So anyone who has got access to the messages tab here will be able to see any message that has been sent. So we wanted to keep that as transparent as we can. If that's going to cause anyone issues, let us know and we can see if there's anything that can be done around that. But at the moment, everybody can see every message that's been sent. Jackie is asking, can we add more items to experiences? For example, there's nothing about using scissors for 3 to 5s and certain physical activities. So Jackie, yeah, we can customize the content that's on here. I would encourage you just to email us or get in touch with us and let us know what it is you want to change, and we can do that. I've answered a couple of these actually just by going through. We only have home, children, and downloads along the top. How do we add the others? That's a question from Catherine McHugh. So we only have home, children, and downloads. So you can see here I've got staff, parents, configuration messages. These are only visible to manager level accounts. So if I click on my staff tab here, you can see that I've got two kinds of staff here. I've got a nursery manager and a key person. Key person accounts only see home, children, and downloads. If you want your team to be able to see everything, you would just need to edit them. So I could edit Simone here and change her role to be a nursery manager, and she would have access to that. It's just to sort of limit the permissions of who has access to different areas of the system. Okay, is there any way that data can be lost? I'm assuming you mean, can you request for it to be deleted? I guess, well, yes, you can. I don't really know what you mean for it to be lost. I mean, once it's uploaded to the site, it's on here now, and it will be there forever until a child is archived. That actually is helpful, because what you may have noticed if you've logged in any time in the last sort of 6 months or so, you'll see this yellow bar here saying that from the 1st of July 2020, children that have been archived for over 1 year will be automatically deleted, permanently deleted. Because what we found, we've been going for about 8 years now, and we leave it up to nurseries and schools to clean their archives. So when a child is, to illustrate that, let's say let's imagine that Abby has left us. And one way to remove Abby from the room is to click on our edit button here, and then to uncheck this box that says active, click on save. And Abby's away now, but she's not been deleted. She's gone to what we call our archive. So if I open up our archive, you can see that Abby's in here. And if we look over these are all the archived children. So you can see that if we look at our days archived column, Abby's only just been archived. Andy here was archived 9 days ago. But when we get to these children, Martha and Michael, they've been sitting in our archive for 672 days. So we previously left it up to you to clean your archives out, because you should only hold on to this information as long as you need it. We're going to be a little bit more proactive on that now, and we are saying that if it's been in the archive for a year, it will be removed. You will get in your email that you get on a Sunday night, it will tell you which children are going to be removed in the next 30 days, and we can reset this number if we want to. So we can see here that Paige has been archived for 9 days. I can reactivate Paige, and that means that she's back in the profile again. And then I can come back to our, well, let's look at our list and find Paige. There she is. And I can deactivate her again, and that sent her back to the archive. But instead of having 9 days archived, she's back to 0 as well. So this resets it. Once these are deleted from here, you won't be able to access the profiles anymore, and we cannot retrieve those. So do make sure that that you don't just hold on to things in your archive just for the sake of holding on to it. Make sure you're exporting and saving things like the PDFs and any reports that you want to, because you'd only be holding on to this for as long as is required according to GDPR. You can delete a child from here, so I could remove this child A3 Smith, and when I click on delete, I've got a window that comes up and says, are you sure it's will permanently delete this child and all associated data, and it cannot be undone. Now I'm comfortable doing that because I've not accessed this one for nearly 2 years. We can click on OK, and that's that child gone. So from the 1st of July, once you're over 365, they will be removed. It should help speed things up for everybody, because we won't have thousands of old profiles sitting in your archives. So that will automatically happen for you. A couple of others asking about parents adding videos. So at the moment, parents can't add videos. They can only add photos. Sorry, I lost them. They can only add photos. They can have up to 4 photos in the observation, and they can also attach documents, so Word documents, PDFs, etc., but no videos. We may review that in future, but it's not available at the moment. Okay, Kirsty, sorry, I may be misunderstood that. So Kirsty had asked about being able to edit comments. The comment that I did was a staff one, but she's asking about parent comments. So if we come to our home tab, sorry, and look at our parent contributions, parent interactions, you'll see there's the one I did here. What a great report. We can't edit that, Kirsty, because that kind of would be putting words into the mouths of the parents, but we can remove that if you feel it was an inappropriate comment. It's only visible to staff and to the parent, but if you wanted to remove that, we could remove that here, but we can't edit what they've actually said. So we can remove it, but not edit it, and we can go and view it as well also. Pat's asking if we can do training on HR. As soon as that's live, Pat, we certainly will. You'll be hearing all about that. And Debbie's asking about transfers. Oh, being able to move children's profile to a new nursery. How do we do this? So I'll just very quick one on this one, Debbie. So you go to your configuration tab here. This needs to be initiated by the donor nursery. So Debbie, imagine you were transferring one of your children to another nursery. What you would do is you would come to the transfer children page, which is down the bottom. And you would click on start a new transfer out. And what you need to have is just the contact details. So say that I want to put this to another nursery, you know, it could be anything you want or whatever the name of that nursery is. And we need the contact details of that person. So this could be someone in their office, or it'd be the manager, or whoever you know would be receiving this. Put the email address in here, and then you choose whichever children are being transferred to that nursery here. And once you create a transfer, excuse me, when you click on create transfer, this will email the person whose details you've put in this box here. They will have a unique code. It's a big long string of 35 numbers or something like that. And they can then import that child. So they can go to, they will come to accept a transfer in, and they will paste that code in here and click complete, and that will take all the profiles in. So it's a really quick and really easy procedure. So especially, you know, things are obviously different at the moment, but for those children moving from nursery up to primary one, lots and lots of schools are using the system. So if they do, this is a great way to be able to have that consistent experience, especially for parents. The child could be in the nursery from 6 months old all the way up to the primary 7, and it's that one continuous experience for that parent. So that's how you would do that. Hopefully that's answered that one for you. We've had, someone's just asking if this session's been recorded. Yes, it is, and I'll be sending a link to everybody when I post it on our YouTube channel, but I'll also, so I'll email everyone that's here, but everyone who registered too, because we couldn't get everybody in. But we do have a page on our website, if you scroll all the way down the bottom, called webinars, and it's got our previous ones that we've done in here as well. So today's one will just pop in here. A lot of these are going to be covering the same ground, but there's a lot of useful information for those of you who want to focus in on a particular one. Christine's asking, can an observation or story be selected to share for each child without clicking on each child? I'm afraid I'm not entirely sure. I haven't grasped that one, I'm afraid, Christine. I apologize. If you maybe email us about that one. I want to try, and we're coming up to an hour now, and I want to try and wrap this up before my video becomes huge and I have to upload that to YouTube. Guys, thank you very much for coming along. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your questions. There was just a whole heap more than I expected, but do email me. You can email info@learningjournals.co.uk, and we're really quite quick at getting back to your questions. You can always phone us on our website here. You see we've got a phone number, and there's a live chat function as well. So if you answer this question, either myself or Cindy will usually get back to you pretty quick. I am going to have a cup of tea at the moment because I've been speaking for a long time and I'm really starting to notice it. So thanks everybody for coming along. I hope that was useful. If you have any questions, do get in touch, but we'll do another one of these and we'll see you again very, very soon. Thanks very much.